So today I'm going to answer a question that I had on another one of the videos written in by one of your fellow YouTube watchers. And I'm so thankful for it. But I think that it is a question and a challenge that many of you have. So we're going to dive into it. How do I find time to write and or stop procrastinating when I'm working a full-time job and I want to finish my writing project? It's a good one, right? The first thing I want to say before I give you some practical tips is you do need to check in with yourself to find out if it is a mindset issue. Now, chances are, if it's just a scheduling thing, we are going to totally take care of that with these suggestions that I give you. But it may actually be a mindset issue. If what you are writing, whether you are writing memoir, autobiography, or fiction, if something is happening in the story that has triggered you, you may feel resistance and pushback and thereby have procrastination and not be able to find the time to write if you're really kind of freaked out about writing about whatever it is, right? So I want you to check in with yourself first just to ensure that it's not a mindset issue. The other thing is, after you actually try out some of these suggestions, if you're still finding trouble with finding time and procrastination, then take another look and see if it's perhaps what you were writing about. Okay. So that said, my very first tip is actually a pretty straightforward one. And that is, if you're still watching television or binging on Netflix, you need to cut it out for a short period of time. I'm a huge fan of film and television. My husband will tell you. I love it, but I love story and I like to see all the different forms that a story can take. And so I'm a huge fan of it. However, it's really important that I keep watching consumption time separate from creation time. And if I find myself really procrastinating and lagging on my content creation, then I know I have to cut that out for a while. So what that looks like is not turning on the telly and or actually deleting the apps from my iPad if I've got apps to Netflix or Stan or whatever other streaming apps you might have. You've got to shut yourself down for a time period. Guess what? They're still going to be there and you can upload them again later. But when you are really struggling with procrastination, you want to make sure that you cut out distractions like that. Along those lines, when you're setting up your writing time, you want to, of course, put your phone and any other devices on airplane mode and shut down anything that is going to ping, 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 bing, bing, bing in your periphery, because as you're trying to get back to the writing, you can really be distracted and you don't want to have those things reminding you. There's something, even if it's just a scheduling issue, but there's always going to be something. So you have to really be committed to the time that you are giving yourself to write. And so that means turn off those distractions, stop consuming with your eyes. The second piece of advice is one that is a little bit different, but my writers will know that I advise this all the time, which is stop reading. The reason for this is, number one, the consumption part, right? If you're spending time consuming, you're not going to create. But number two, and this is a little mindset shift, is the fact that if you are reading anything that is even remotely related to what you're writing, you can start to have comparisonitis without even intending to. So that means even if it's a similar theme but a different presentation, like fiction, nonfiction, it's cutting into things. And here's the truth. If you are not creating what you want to create or getting that time, you've got to take it from somewhere else. Not forever. Just for a little while. Set yourself some goals and maybe even use reading something else not related to what you're writing. Pretty please. We don't want that comparisonitis. But you can use that as a reward. If I write X number of pages, I will allow myself an extra 30 minutes to read XYZ. Okay? So pretty straightforward. But honestly, you're probably still doing it. And I don't want you to do it if you haven't finished this big, audacious goal that you have. Okay, the third piece of advice is something you've probably heard before, but I've got a slight tweak to it as well, which is to alter your sleep schedule. Now, number one, I'm going to say sleep. It is of just immense importance. I love my sleep. I advise everyone still get at a minimum 7 hours of sleep a night. However, what I first want you to do is check in with yourself. If you are finding it a struggle and procrastinating your writing, it may be because you're trying to write at the wrong time and trying to fit it in around other things. I want you to take it from the other direction. Path of least resistance. When you have been in writerly flow, what time of day was that? We want to alter your waking and sleeping schedules, number one, to ensure you get those 7 hours of sleep throughout a day, even if it's sleep and a nap, right? So either you wake up earlier or you go to sleep slightly later. We're only talking about 30 minutes on either side, people. We do not want you to interrupt that really restorative sleep that you are meant to be getting at night. However, I also want you to really embrace your natural writerly inclinations, which is when do you create best? When is it easiest to create? That's when you want to create that pocket. Now, you heard me say 30 minutes either side for the sleeping, but that's also true for your writing session. You don't have to have writing sessions in 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hour blocks. In fact, you can get a ton done if you break it up into 25, 30-minute sessions. If you've ever heard of something called the Pomodoro method, I did a live stream on Instagram the other day, and I was showing how I break up my day when I've got lots of things on, but I also know that I need to create. And I was doing it in 25-minute stints. Now in Pomodoro, you might combine multiple 25-minute stints, 25 minutes on, focused on one project, then 5-minute break. You can go back to that same project, or if you are similar to me and you've got all these other things going, you can move on to another one, but maybe add on a 25-minute block again later. I got about 3,000 words done in the time period that I had to write on that day that I did those Insta Lives. So it is definitely something that works. And if that sounds amazing to you, 3,000 words in a day, it's not. It's focused. So alter your sleep schedule so that you can find those little pockets of time. Now, what if you are somebody who actually writes best when you have long periods of time, 4 hours, 5 hours, maybe even 8 hours of time that you're writing? Well, the best piece of advice I have is stop trying to do little pockets of time writing and create some larger pockets of time by taking yourself on retreat. Now, you needn't necessarily go somewhere else, but of course, if you've got the funds, you can either attend somebody else's retreat, although if you're doing that, you want to go to a retreat that is building in some time for you to actually write, not just learning. Number two, you can just go to a hotel. It doesn't need to be far away. You're not doing it for any other reason than having a place where you are going to immerse yourself in writing only, not making beds, not doing laundry, not making food for other people, right? You can call up Uber Eats or order in from the hotel or eat the minibar. I don't really care. But the point is to try to get yourself into a place, at least for a couple of days, maybe even longer if you can afford it, where you get to sit down and just immerse yourself in writing. Stop trying to do it in a way that doesn't work for you. If you like long periods of writing, set yourself up for that. Speaking of retreats, I think that I probably have a retreat at the time of this recording scheduled where it's 2 days, 2.5, 3 days, but 2 nights of a writing retreat one-on-one with me, and then 3 months of weekly accountability calls. You will get an entire book written in that time. That leads me into my last piece of advice, which is if you're really wanting to break this procrastination and finding time in your schedule, one of the best ways to do it is to set up with an accountability buddy. It can just be a person who is willing to get on the phone and check in with you. Maybe they're also a writer, but it can also be of great benefit to engage a coach. And that is the way that some people get their best work done with me. By scheduling and committing, they actually get a ton of writing done and or editing an entire manuscript, a la one of our beautiful fellow YouTube video watchers. Not only do they upskill in working with someone, but by showing up every week, they get way more done than they had done in a similar period of time. Like I said, 3 months is actually an amazing amount of time to do it. And by showing up weekly, you get to ensure that you are going to commit that time, not just to mind, but actually get in action and doing it. Because here's the thing. Most of us don't want to show up to something if we haven't done the work that we've needed to do. And so this is how being a coach is similar to maybe being a personal trainer. You cannot escape. If you're not getting results with a personal trainer, they will know. And if you're not getting the words in or the editing done with a coach like me, I'll know. And because most of us are motivated by not embarrassing ourselves, we do what we need to do. So if you say, yeah, but I don't have the time, miraculously, I have found clients who have found the time, even though they are either actually sole parents or actively sole parents during the week and have a job and do the writing. 7 weeks, 75,000 words, 8 weeks, about 350 pages. You do the math if there's about 250 words per page. It's a lot of work. And they did it even though it wasn't the only thing they were doing. Why? Because they showed up for themselves, probably on a daily basis, but definitively on a weekly basis because they met with me and we went over the words that they wrote. You can totally do this. You can schedule it in a way that works for you. But the best piece of advice for all of those different suggestions is stop making it harder than it needs to be. Go the path of least resistance and write in a way over time periods, whether that's short little bursts of writing or taking yourself away on retreat over a weekend or longer, where you work to what works for you. And like I said at the beginning, if you're still having trouble, it may be a mindset issue. So you really want to dig in to what's causing you to stop writing at this time. It may not actually be the scheduling. That's it. I hope you got some great tips, and I would love to know if they have worked for you. Where have you tried some of these things and they've worked or stopped working or started working again? As always, if you've got any questions, put them in the comments below or email me at anjanette@storyislife.com. You can check out my website where I do have stuff about retreats if that is something that sounds of interest to you. And I cannot wait to see you next time. You have a story to tell, and it's time to tell it. Until next time, bye.